given talks before where there have been a couple of times where I've kind of gone off the rails for a little while and not realized how to get back on track. So forgive me for that, if you don't mind. Thank you so much for having me. So time has been a preoccupation of mine for most of my life. So when I was 4 years old, my mom put me into kindergarten like a year early. And I began asking the other kids, how old are you? And I kept getting the answer, 5, 5, 5. And I remember thinking, I don't belong here. This is a class of older kids that I don't belong with. So when that answer kept coming back, I immediately knew I wasn't in the right place. It wasn't the right time. So I made the decision to stay home from school until the next year, when the time was right. Fast forward a couple of years, when I'm around 7 or 8, my older cousin Chris, who lived in Houston at the time, gave me a shoebox filled with different colored phone wires. And they were all tangled into this shoebox-sized nest of wire. They were from phone company boxes in their new suburban Sugarland homes. So this was back in the early 70s. And yeah. I proceeded to take these wires, sat under a bush in my grandmother's yard, spent the next few hours untangling them and categorizing them by color. I knew I was going to use them for something really important in the future. Fast forward about 50 years. Sometime last year, about 50 years or so after the untangling wire incident, my wife Stacy and I had just worked our way through a disagreement when I had an epiphany. We've worked so hard over the years to make our marriage work. And at times I thought it was an impossible task. And I was reminded in that moment that I was reminded of that box of wires. And the purpose for that untangling was now a metaphor. So this is what my wife, my marriage, and the rest of my life was and was going to be, an untangling and making sense of things. I've always been known as an introvert, someone who doesn't talk much. Getting up in front of people like this can be nerve-wracking. But verbal communication was hard for me as the youngest of 5 siblings. My mind was always racing, but I never felt comfortable to share those thoughts for fear of ridicule. I see now that this is why I chose art as a career. It's my way of communicating what's inside, of untangling those wires. Fast forward. Now in my artwork, I'm drawn to mixed media collage because of the redemptive properties inherent in it. The aged paper has a personality that to me only time can bring. So weathered textures, fading ink, vignetted edges, that's beauty and authenticity that can only be brought by age. You can fake it, but to me it doesn't have the same sensibility. As a child, I lived on a block with my family, my grandparents, and all of our cousins on this one city block. And all of the kids took turns serving as janitors for my aunt's insurance agency, which was also located on that same block. So she took that insurance agency over from my grandfather. So when she passed away, my cousin Mary gave me boxes of the old ledgers and insurance forms from the office. So this material is present in many of the pieces, including, like, for instance, right here. And it kind of weaves its way into my artwork, so I feel like my past is now becoming part of my art. So this material is present in many of the pieces, connecting yet again my childhood to my adulthood and adding more relevance to them. The other side of it is that it allows me to channel the small boy who still lives inside of me. I've worked really hard to maintain that aspect of childlikeness in my work and in my life. I feel like as adults, we're almost forbidden to see the world through the lens of childhood. And I feel like the sense of possibility that kids have is something that unfortunately isn't often allowed to exist in adulthood. And I choose to hold on to that childlike thing in me with a tight grip with white knuckles. This show is entitled Transmissions for a reason. My artwork is my attempt to communicate across time to the young boy from South Louisiana, to the artist/creative director who I am now, and to the future version of myself who has yet to reveal himself. Can't wait to meet that guy. This is my form of time travel. I'm fascinated with the idea of non-linear time and how I feel God lives outside of our linear lives. He's able to step into our lives at any point he chooses, traveling through wormholes, connecting the different instances of our lives and connecting them, kind of like those tangled wires for me. So my microphone that you saw in the front to speak across time is my artwork. I'm giving voice to my thoughts, all the while healing emotional wounds that I often don't know are there until I finish a piece and it speaks to me. So over time, my work has morphed from a stylistic choice and exercise to a more therapeutic process. I travel down many wormholes myself, or directions in my work. I have countless series that I've worked on and have still to work on, but they're all held together by the medium, those time-traveling bits of paper, and by the inner process that I'm going through and won't be done with for the foreseeable future. My hope is that viewers and owners of my work can see a bit of themselves in each piece, something that speaks to them. I want them to be able to take the time and let these pieces of art slowly work their way into their hearts and minds and serve as a mirror that reveals something in them that's yet untapped. So I'd like to thank Lee with Umbrella Gallery for asking me to hang the work in this beautiful space. I'm also grateful to Art House Dallas and my fellow artists in that organization for the safe space to participate and share my weird ideas. To Michael Wyatt of Full City Rooster Coffee in the Cedars neighborhood for allowing me to hang my work in his space for so many years and for his quiet encouragement. Thanks to Treg Miller for hanging all of this work with me. I could not have done it on my own. I would have lost my mind. And lastly, to my wife Stacy, who sees the boy in me and encourages him to come out and play. If you have any questions about any of the work, feel free to ask me. I've got explanations and crazy thoughts, and yeah, hopefully it makes sense. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.